All right, good evening, Mayor, council members. Um, so my understanding that we're just gonna kind of do this quarterly, which I think will be a really great thing, and kind of give an update. So I'm just gonna kind of discuss the things that have occurred since about October to January, and then maybe just hit on some high points of things that we're kind of looking towards here in the near future that you're gonna get then the full update on next time. So this last year we had the municipal court conference here in Casper virtually. And so I asked again if we could have that back and try to do it one more time in person. And so they're going to let us do that, hopefully here in person. That's going to be May 11th through the 13th at the Hilton Garden Inn. That is through the Wyoming Municipal Court Conference Commission, and so I'm the president this year on that board, and so really excited to hopefully get that here in person. We had a really great lineup last year virtually, but I would really like to get more attendance here in person, get people out in the community, kind of a lot of people that from the small communities really don't come necessarily to socialize in Casper, so they really don't know about, you know, some of the new offerings that we have with David Street, the Art Walk, you know, some of the new local businesses downtown. And so I'm really excited to hopefully get that here and to show everybody kind of, you know, Casper's growth and development. We've been doing some collaboration with the city attorney's office. Jackie Brown, you know, is our new assistant city attorney. She's the prosecutor over there with us. And so she's kind of picked up on some things that she would like to do differently, problems that she has seen. And so we've collaborated with her and the police department, and then, you know, Nicole Hatfield, to kind of make some productive changes as far as court security goes, parking ordinance, citation structure, those sorts of things, and those have been really good and productive conversations. We are going to this week be in meetings with the police department with Lieutenant Bullard to start discussing the court security aspect. The state has a court security commission, and we'd like to try to get one established here. Basically, there's members on that from different entities, the courts, law enforcement, that kind of contribute to those conversations so that we can establish a good set of rules and guidelines by which to go on, which then are implemented. And I think that that's going to be a really important conversation going forward with hopefully the new changes that we're going to implement as far as building structures goes. We formed a new relationship with Liz Betcher as far as a community service option, getting individuals to get on the transit buses in the morning as far as community service, going to the stops and shoveling for citizens. We had heard that that was an issue that council was encountering, and so we thought, well, we might have a solution to help remedy that in some fashion. So we've kind of been trying to get that off the ground. Of course, it takes a few individuals kind of working out some bugs, you know, to get things really where we want them to be. So we're in the process of doing that, hopefully getting things streamlined. Then we're going to hopefully expand those operations to maybe other places, picking up trash. We do have a couple defendants now that have been assigned to, they come and get bags from us, and then they go downtown and pick up trash, and then they come back and report to me where they've left those trash bags, and so then we call them, verify them, and then they can pick them up and throw them away. And so far that's been working good. That was kind of a last-ditch effort for some individuals that really can't participate in traditional community service and aren't paying fines, so trying to think out of the box on some of those things. I've been working with, I'm on the Governor's Council for Impaired Driving, and so I've been working with Rich Adrians as far as programming for the conference, and also he's been discussing trying to get the 24/7 program back here in Natrona County, and specifically maybe having that as a police department program. We haven't really gotten very far on that, just because there's a lot of moving parts with regard to that, and so, but that's a continued discussion that we're going to continue having, and something that the council is going to continue to try to get that program back in Natrona County. As far as trainings that I've done this year that have been very helpful, courtroom interpreters. So I subscribe to the National Judicial College, and so whenever they have webinars, things like that, I go ahead and take those classes. I also enrolled in like a 6-week class that has to do with issues that face rural judges. And although, some may consider Casper not really rural, there's 300 different judges that are in Tennessee that are on, involved in this, and they consider themselves rural. So I think, where we have the limited number of judges, we would probably definitely qualify for that. So doing that class, really enjoying what I'm learning there, and so that's all online. And other than that, that's kind of the high points that have been happening. Things that I'm really going to kind of gear up for this spring are getting those conference speakers really locked in. You get tentative people early on, and then people fall off, so you got to scramble to get those kind of filled again. But we're going to get that done. Everything else with the conference, we're in really, really good shape. Hopefully we get that court security commission up off the ground, get some modifications made over there, some changes made that are necessary. And those are kind of, it's only 2 projects really, but they're 2 bigger projects, and they take up a lot of time. So between that and our regular court schedule, I'm hopeful that I can get both of those accomplished. So.
Anybody have any questions for the judge? Oh, yeah, go ahead, Bruce.
Are you, this is the first time we've met formally, and since you're one of our employees, I think it's important, so I'm glad we're going to be doing this quarterly. Are there things you need from us? I know your things have kind of smoothed out over there now with the addition of Nicole, and you've gotten some help in that aspect, but is there anything you need from us at this time?
Honestly, I think it's probably something that we want to put on council's radar as far as staffing levels. We run a court docket of about 9,500 cases a year. We're comparable with the circuit courts in this state. We run heavier caseloads than a lot of circuit courts in this state. And right now we are running on basically bare bones, and I think it's something to maybe look to be a more productive, a more efficient court here in the future if we could really look at increasing those staffing levels.
And do you do your own budget?
No, so Nicole does the budget for the court. So.
Other questions? Yeah, Kyle.
Sorry, maybe a dumb question, but you're here in front of us, and so I thought I would take a shot at the opportunity. I thought I remembered a year or 2 ago reading about something in our city where people weren't getting public defenders for misdemeanor charges because of, on the point of, staffing levels. Could you speak to, I don't know if you recall that article, so you could speak to that article, but do we have any sort of issue with people in the city having legal counsel? That's the end of my question.
Okay. No, so that's a good question, and I appreciate that. So there's a lot of confusion among citizens that everybody thinks that regardless of the offense, there's the right to a court-appointed attorney. And that's just not the case. If you've got a misdemeanor offense that does not have a jail term with it, they don't have the constitutional right to a court-appointed attorney. They have the right to go seek their own counsel. But that's sometimes what gives people a little bit of confusion when they come in, because they're like, well, I just want you to give me an attorney. And it's like, well, there's requirements that you have to be indigent, you have to provide us financial information to be able to make that decision, and 2, if it's not jailable, then you're not just going to receive an attorney to represent you. You're going to have to go pay for one with your own funds. And so with the relationship we have now, as far as the city goes, with Chapman Valdez, so Trevor Schenk is actually our court-appointed attorney now. And so basically when somebody comes in, if there's a jailable offense, I advise them of that, and I advise them that they can seek a court-appointed attorney in that case. And then I advise them that they need to go fill out the financial packet, and then they need to bring that back to me so that I can review it. Because some people also think if you're making, say $60,000, $70,000 a year, but it's not in your personal budget for an attorney, that qualifies you as a court-appointed attorney, which that is not what it's meant to do. It's meant to help truly indigent people, those that cannot afford an attorney and carry with it the potential jail time, to receive those attorneys. So there's a lot of misconceptions that surround that court-appointed attorney that I think that people just really don't realize. But we don't have those issues here because we make sure that people do receive the attorneys if they need one, as far as if they qualify. If I see anything that gives me any indication of, say, mental illness, some sort of mental deficiency that I just am uncomfortable with proceeding, we have, not only can I just go ahead and appoint Trevor on that basis, but we also have another attorney, Rob Oldham, here, that he's more than willing, that if we call over and say, hey, here's what we've got, would you be interested in taking this pro bono? He's always more than happy to take those from us. And so we've got a good relationship with a number of attorneys that if they need counsel, then we can do what we can do to get them counsel.
Anybody else? And so if you need me for that conference too, let me know.
I'm sorry?
If you need me for that conference to open that up, let me know.
Yeah, I'm gonna try and figure out, we're restructuring the schedule just a little bit. And so I wanna place you in a good place where we can kind of get, the most amount of people.
Yep.
So I'll definitely let you know.
Awesome, yeah, count me in, so.
Yep, perfect.
Great, thank you so much for
Yeah.
coming in, Judge, we really appreciate it, so.
Thank you.
All
Mayor.
right, we'll see you next time. All right, moving on, Wildstar 2 State Investment Pool. Jill?
Thank you, Mayor. There is an item on the meeting tonight. It's going to be talking about the Wyostar 2 State Investment Pool. So when our Investment Advisory Committee got together and they started looking at our investments, what they found is that we needed to move some money to get a better return. And we were looking at the Wyostar 2 account because it had that those things that we wanted to do. When they first started looking at that account, we did not have an account already set up. So I had reached out to our legal team and asked them, do I need to bring this to council or can I just do this based on the advice of the committee? And I was given the advice that, yes, you can do that on the advice of the committee. So we went ahead and set up the account and we moved some money into it. So I did get an email here recently that said, well, no, that's not actually correct. I do need to run that through council. So I am asking that you ratify the Wyostar account so that we can continue to use it and put investment money in it. When I was doing some research to see how the Wyostar 1 account was done, I did not find that one. So in the ratification is that account as well, which has been in place for quite some time. So I just wanted to give you guys a heads up if you had any questions about that.
Anybody have any questions about that pool? Doesn't look like it. Great, thank you. Investment policy.
So, thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a follow-up to Councilman Nell's request that we do a little bit more homework on our investment advisor to see if we were required to have it be a brick and mortar within the city or if there would be any restrictions to not doing that. So we did actually do quite a bit of research in statute to see what the statute said and what we were allowed to do. So we did find in Wyoming statute, it did not necessarily require even the investment advisor to be in Wyoming. However, they did have to be subject to Wyoming rules. So like if we were to have a disagreement with the investment advisor, we wouldn't want to go to New York City to go to court over it. They would have to be subject to the rules here in Wyoming. The second thing that we found is that there is it's not necessarily a statute, but it's an act, the Wyoming Uniform Prudent Investor Act. And what that requires is for the investor, the investment manager to manage the funds in the best way possible, meaning the lowest cost, the best return, all of those things that a prudent investor would do. So if it was your own money, you would do what you needed to do to get the least amount of investment fees and get the best return. So that's what we are looking at as far as what we should do. And per that rule, it would make sense that if we had an investment advisor outside of the city who could get us a better return with less fees, that we should look at them. Not necessarily we would go with them, but we should look at them.
Questions? Yeah, go ahead, Bruce.
And thank you so much for doing that. And I will tell you, this came up because this is City of Casco money. This is, and to me, and this is just me, I don't like the idea of outsourcing my investment portfolio to someone outside of the City of Casco. I think it should be someone who pays taxes and has a vested interest in our community. And I am absolutely, adamantly quite opposed to doing this outside of the city. If they don't have brick and mortar in our city, I don't think we should use them. And unless you can undoubtedly prove to me that by using somebody in New York City is going to save us X amount of dollars, I just can't see doing it. It's just like outsourcing I look at it on a grand scale, outsourcing any of our work to outside companies that don't live in our city. It just doesn't seem right. It seems like that money should stay at home and should be used by people in our community. That's just my opinion.
Vice Mayor and then Kyle.
Well, the only thing I guess I would say to that is that while we want to keep everything that we possibly can here, I keep hearing, we want to keep things here, but then on the other hand, we want to be fiscally responsible. And those are always used in these meetings all the time, but at times we can't have both. We can't be fiscally responsible but keep it at home. The reality behind it is if we want to be fiscally responsible, then we need to make sure that those people that are here maybe need to sharpen their pencil a little bit. And, if they're close, then keep it home is the way I look at it. But if it's far off, they either need to sharpen their pencil or don't get upset when it goes somewhere else, because we can't have both all the time. We can't always keep it here, but also do what's right, money-wise. At times, one's going to outweigh the other, and we may end up somewhere else.
And I do agree with you 100%. That's why I said, if you could show me that it's going to save us money somewhere else, and I'll reiterate that because I did say that. If you could show me that it saves us money to go to New York City, then I'm all for it. But give our people here an opportunity, I think, in every opportunity we can, I think, to keep that money at home. So, sorry, Kyle.
Go ahead, Kyle.
Well, I know there's people up here in the days that know this better than I, but I'm a fan of the way that government contracts are bidded out, in the sense that local organizations are given a 5% preference, and so I don't know if there's anything we can work into like that, where, we are willing to pay a little bit more or not earn quite as much if we can keep it local, unless it gets to the point where it's so egregious that it would be fiscally irresponsible for us. So I just wonder if there's any sort of language we can add where, yes, there's a preference for local, but there's a certain threshold that, we could set that would be fiscally irresponsible. I think that's a good way to balance the two. So I'm just curious if we can have anything like that. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, Councilman Gamroth, there actually is in statute a local preference. It is not necessarily for services, though. It's basically for construction contracts. So the one problem that we would have with the 5% would be in a very low interest environment. If you give a 5% preference, you can potentially wipe out some of your earnings. So that would be something we would need to weigh.
Yeah, sorry, I'm not the right person to be, thinking about this. I wonder if the 5% would be, when we look at I'll probably use my mic. Sorry, I didn't even ask you, Ray. Sorry, just launching into it.
Go ahead.
So, I wonder if we could. I don't know how exactly it would look, but we could. I'm interested in what Councilman Nell suggested, having some sort of information about what our returns would look like with this agency, what it would look like with this agency, and then when we compare those two returns, I wonder if we could use the 5%, 5% difference in that regard, not necessarily, interest rates. long story short, I agree with Councilman Nell. I'd be interested in that information so we could kind of compare apples to apples. Thank you.
Steve Cappy.
Along the lines of this discussion, what we're really talking about is we would have to look at the fee structure if we were going to do something like that. Because you're talking about 2% return is about what we've been getting. So if you start looking at a 5% difference, you're going to pay them to take our money. So we can't go that route. But the best place you could look at then, this is your rate of return, here are our fees. Now, if one of them is, $100,000 in fees and the other one's 50, you better go with the 50. But, if they're within the 5% maybe on the fees, that would potentially be a way of looking at it. But you can't necessarily go on rate of return because we aren't getting any. Understood. Okay.
Vice Mayor.
Well, I was just going to try and summarize it the easiest way. I think that 5%, well, obviously you just threw that out there, but just some sort of preferential for local over somebody else. And I think we do it, a good example would be the police department. I think when they go and do testing, if somebody's a veteran, then they'd get preferential treatment there. So kind of along the same lines as that is what I think Kyle's trying to get at.
Yeah, go ahead, Bruce.
You're on the right track because that topic is going to be coming to construction, I believe, right, Joe? We talked about that. That's going to be coming to council soon because what we have found is with all of the awards for construction things, a lot of out-of-towners get to bid because they're able to sway that. Because of that 5%, they can underbid that thing by 10% and then change order their way on the backside to recoup their money, and there's nothing we can do about that. That's how they're able to do this, and we found this out actually from some outside contractors who spilled the beans and said, this is how we're getting them. So we're going to close that loophole, just like you said, to stop that practice, which is completely inappropriate, but has allowed them to, that's why they're always so much cheaper than our local contractors, but in the end, we end up paying them the same or more anyway. So we're going to be working on closing that loophole, so I'm glad you did bring that up. It kind of segued into that, but I do think Steve's right. If the fees are this, and the return is this, the other one might have higher fees, but their return's bigger. You just got to balance out, which is better. And once we see those figures, here's what New York gets you, here's what LA gets you, and here's what Casper gets you, and we're within, 20, 30 grand on a $100 million investment, I think we can keep it at home. That was kind of where I was going with it, but I guess we'll know more when we see numbers, right? Because no decisions will be made until those numbers are presented and projections are made. Is that correct?
Mayor, that is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? All right. Thank you, Jill. Agenda reviews. I don't know if you had anything, Jill.
I do not.
Okay. Anybody have anything for the agenda? All right. Take a 20-minute break. Again this evening, I'd like to remind everyone to silence their cell phones at this time. And I now call the February 1st, 2022 regular council meeting to order. The chair would entertain a motion to, by minute action, excuse the absence of Councilmember Pollock.
So moved. Second.
Moved by Councilmember Cathy, seconded by Councilmember Johnson. Please cast your vote. Please record the vote.
With all members voting aye, motion passed.
Council meetings are televised and can be viewed on cable channel 192. Would you please join Councilmember Gamroth in the Pledge of Allegiance today?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I don't think they can pick them up, but I would cover it up anyway. Chair would entertain a motion to approve by minute action the minutes of the January 18th, 2022 regular council meeting as published in the Casper Star Tribune on January 29th, 2022.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Councilmember Johnson, seconded by Vice Mayor Friel. Any amendments? Discussion? Cast your vote. Please record the vote.
With all members voting aye, motion passed.
Chair to entertain a motion to approve by minute action the minutes of the January 18th executive session.
So moved.
Moved by Councilmember Engebretson, seconded by Councilmember Sutherland. Amendments? Discussion? Please cast your vote.
Just gotta push.
No, it's Bruce.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Please record the vote.
With all members voting aye, motion passed.
Chair to entertain a motion to approve by minute action the February 1st, 2022 bills and claims as audited by City Manager Napier.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Councilmember Engebretson, seconded by Vice Mayor Friel. Any abstentions or nay votes? Please cast your vote. Please record the vote.
With all members voting aye, motion passed.
At this time, we have bright spots in our community with random acts of kindness, and we have a proclamation. But first, I'd like to welcome Mr. Chris Murray to the meeting tonight. If you'd please come forward, Chris, and introduce yourself and anybody else that you have, if you'd like, and talk a little, just you, right?
Yeah, just me tonight. I'm here on behalf of Kindness Wyoming, and we have requested a proclamation to acknowledge Random Acts of Kindness Week, which is coming up February 13th through the 19th.
Perfect. Yeah. Do you want to join me up here and I'll read the proclamation?
Absolutely.
Oh, yes. You're good. So, whereas the City of Casper recognizes the value of acts of kindness that are performed without prompting or reason, and how these acts can positively impact the person offering kindness, the person receiving the acts of kindness, and those witnessing, whereas acts of kindness can be performed by any person in the City of Casper, regardless of age, origin, education, gender, religious beliefs, lifestyle, or abilities for the good of those around them. And whereas kind individuals can create a more caring community and help to perpetuate genuine acts of kindness within their city, state, and even throughout the world. And whereas we seek to cultivate throughout thoughtful and compassionate residents by teaching our youth to make a difference through random acts of kindness. And whereas Random Acts of Kindness Week is recognized as an international celebration intended to encourage all of us to practice acts of kindness in our homes, schools, businesses, and communities. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Ray Pacheco, Mayor of the City of Casper, do hereby proclaim February 13th through the 19th, 2022 as the City of Casper Random Acts of Kindness Week, and encourage the people of Casper to practice random acts of kindness in the spirit of compassion, kindness, and goodwill toward all person. In witness whereof I have hereunto set my hand and caused the official seal of the City of Casper, Wyoming, to be affixed this first day of February 2022.
Thank you very much. Certainly appreciate it. All right, thank you. Thank you very much, Mayor Pacheco. Real briefly, I'd just like to add a couple of things. First of all, this is a statewide initiative. Wyoming is the only state in the country that has a statewide kindness initiative, and we really leapfrog and piggyback onto Random Acts of Kindness Week. As part of this year's initiative, I literally just came from a kindness kit packing party. Try to say that 3 times real fast. But there we have prepared kits for schools, for businesses, and for families that have ordered these kits through Kindness Wyoming. And we have an estimated reach of over 35,000 people just directly through those mailings that we're doing today. So one thing I have brought for city council members and city personnel, if they're here as well, are some of the kindness tokens that we're sending out. And these we call kindness coins, and these were created by Pathways Innovation Center. And this one, for example, said, "The world needs more kindness." and it's got steamboat bucking, and there's a multitude of others that are there. But I'd just like to leave that with council, and you can pass around through city offices. But I want to thank you all for your support. This is the 6th year that we've done this, and it's growing exponentially every year. So we certainly appreciate your support.
Well, Chris, I just want to thank you for the work that you do with this, and I think that we all know, and I think it goes without saying, that this world can use more kindness. We obviously see it, unfortunately, out in other parts of the world and here and so forth. So thank you for continuing to push that and do that within our communities, and especially our young people. So
We certainly appreciate your support. Thank you very much. I will leave this.
You can just set it right there. Sure.
Please help yourself and pass whatever's remaining.
thanks again, Chris.
All right, thank
We
you.
appreciate it. Take care. Thank you. So now we go to communications from persons present. Now is the time we invite anyone in the audience who wishes to speak with the council to come forward. As stated on the first page of the agenda, we ask the following. Please state your name and address. Direct all questions and comments to the mayor and only the mayor. No personal attacks on our staff or the council will be tolerated. Council will not respond to personnel matters. Those will be referred to the city manager. And questions posed by speakers may or may not be responded to by the council members. Presentations will be limited to 5 minutes, and the duplication of speakers will not be allowed, nor will time extensions be permitted. Please note that public hearings and ordinances do have their own comment period, so please hold your comments to those items until we reach them. So anybody that wants to come up. Good evening.
Kathy Sawinski, 1141 Wilkins Circle. I'm the social worker at U.S. Renal here in Casper, and this is Linda Smith, the facility administrator. U.S. Renal, for those of you who don't know, is one of the dialysis clinics in Casper. Dialysis is a life-saving treatment for individuals diagnosed with end-stage renal disease. People who receive dialysis do so because their kidneys are no longer functioning and need this treatment in order to clean their blood and rid themselves of harmful waste, a job our healthy kidneys do all the time. We are here today to discuss with you an issue that is causing harm to our patients, our clinic, and the city of Casper. Many of our patients use Assist as a means of getting to and from their treatment. Linda and I are both new to this job and did not realize the impact that Assist had on our clients. Since May 2021, patients have been requested to be taken off treatment early 18 times in order for them to get a ride back from Assist back to their home. There has also been 4 times Assist dropped a patient off late, causing them again to have missed treatment or early off treatment. And there's also been 5 times where they haven't been able to make their treatment at all due to closure. Either the city has closed like when like on Thanksgiving and New Year's Eve and Christmas Eve. So that's also been a problem. Also, Assist is not able to go out to Mills or the west end of town on Saturdays, and that's leaving our patients struggling to find transportation. Some are able to find rides, but others, it costs up to $20 one way for them to get to their needed treatment. So dialysis treatments typically last 3 to 4 hours, 3 days a week. So a patient is having a machine work 9 to 12 hours a week, doing something that our healthy kidneys do 24 hours, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Missed treatment and shortened treatments, even by 15 minutes, are devastating to these patients. They become weak and tired, have poor appetite, nausea, they can have the taste of ammonia in their mouth, and have swelling of the heart. Even one missed treatment or one shortened treatment can cause the individual to wind up in the hospital or even die. On average, an outpatient dialysis treatment is about $250, while an inpatient dialysis treatment can cost the individual over $2,000. This is just the cost to the individual. There is also the cost and time to the ambulance, police, fire department, ER staff, hospital staff, and the list could go on. Then this is just the monetary and time cost. There is also, of course, the ultimate cost, which could be the person's life. We have spoken to Assist, and they have told us that they have a budget the city has given them that they have to stick to. Picking up people after a certain time or picking up an individual in Mills or west out of town on a Saturday would cause them to have overtime, and they are not able to do that with the budget that they have right now. Well, every effort is made by us to make sure our patients are off on time and ready to go when the bus arrives. That doesn't always happen. Sometimes individuals have a difficult time stopping bleeding, so of course we want to make sure those individuals aren't bleeding when they get on to the bus. If they would continue to bleed, they could bleed out on the bus or at home, which could be deadly. I'm not going to lie to you and tell you that assist is the only reason people miss treatment or leave early. People miss and leave for various reasons. However, transportation should never be a reason that people are not getting their prescribed treatment. And we recognize that we are just one agency in town that uses assist, but would stand to reason other agencies run into these same issues. We know assist offers hundreds of rides a month to individuals needing to get to their own appointments, which are just as important. However, it is our duty to bring attention to this matter and advocate for our patients. We are asking you to please look over the assist budget and see if there are changes you can make to ensure our patients continue to make their life-saving treatments. Thank you.
Anybody have any questions? Yeah, go ahead, Kyle.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Kathy, and I'm sorry, the other gal's name I forgot.
Linda.
I'm terrible. Thank you both for being here, though. You mentioned some statistics about some missed appointments since May 2021. Am I correct in assuming that's when we took over operations of City of Casper?
That's when I started.
That's when you started?
That's the date I used, is when I started to notice it.
Okay. So my question is, has there been a noticeable difference since the City of Casper took over the operations, or has this been a historic problem with assist and getting folks to their appointments? Thank you.
I think Linda could speak better to how it's been since she's been there a little longer than me, but I would say it's probably been historic.
I'm going to have to agree. I started at U.S. Renal Care in February, and I came from working at the hospital for the past 20 years, and I didn't realize the difficulty some of these patients had. But it just seemed like it was popping up, a lot of mistreatments, because it's things that we have to track in our clinic. And then when Kathy came on, we kind of put our heads together, and I said, let's tabulate some numbers. So we didn't tabulate anything prior to May, so I don't have an accurate answer for that. But I agree with Kathy, it's probably historical.
Thank you. And then follow up.
Yeah, you bet.
So my understanding is that the money that we use to fund CATSI comes mostly in the form of grants from the Federal Transportation Association and similar organizations. I'm curious, our city manager or you gals, whoever might have a better answer, is there any possibility to get reimbursement from organizations like Medicare or Medicaid to help provide this sort of transportation for folks to make it to medically necessary appointments? Thank you.
I'm not aware of Medicare covering costs like that.
Medicare doesn't cover cost. Medicaid does, but only if you're traveling out of town. So I don't believe Medicaid would consider Mills or Evansville out of town to Casper.
One last,
Yeah,
and
no.
I'll let everyone else talk. Sorry, monopolizing conversation, as usual. Follow up to that question, are you aware of any collaboration that the City of Casper could, approach to, any organizations that help folks get to medically necessary appointments? Are you aware of any collaboration that the City of Casper could take part in to help fund people getting to those appointments? Thank you.
I wish I was, because that would help us tremendously, but we've reached out to churches who do want to help, but they're helping their own individuals, and with COVID, that has also been problematic. I mean, people aren't necessarily wanting to put a stranger in their car right now and transport them.
Go ahead, Bruce. Councilmember Nell.
Is there, no, Bruce is fine. Is there when they're receiving renal care, is there more than a 2-day pause in between each treatment?
So
Do you have people
individuals,
that have to have it every single day?
It's very rare that somebody would have it every single day. Usually individuals are Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday.
So my question for you is, how much would a scheduling change make it better if we know the bus doesn't run to Mills on Saturdays because we only have so much of a budget to run, to reschedule those people, the Mills people, on a Monday, Wednesday, Friday schedule so that they're not without a ride to get their particular care?
We have tried that. We've moved people around, and we still at times run into they're getting off too late. 4:40 is too late to get back to the individual's home and the bus to get back to the bus barn. It also is, and Linda can speak better to this about the scheduling, it's a very precise scheduling that has to be done because people have different times, people run for different lengths of time, and then the machines have to be sat and cleaned for 45 minutes. So you're looking at if an individual is on for 4 hours, that's 4 hours and 45 minutes until the next individual can come on. And if that person is having issues, they're bleeding, if their machine is having issues, if their access is having issues, if all those things are going on, that just lengthens the time. And so what Assist would like us to do is have everybody off by 4. We would like to have everybody off by 4 too, because then we could go home early too, but that's just, unfortunately, that's not happening anymore. And we are getting more and more patients. Each of our clinics are near capacity. So that's 13 chairs for all those days a week are people receiving end-stage renal disease care. So, and that's not going to end. That's not going to change anytime soon. I mean, just I think since we have both been there, we probably have gotten 20 or 30 new people since I've been there in April.
We also have to collaborate with the nursing home. So the patients that receive dialysis that are nursing home bound, we have to work with their schedules as well. So it's not, you can't like just move around people. So you have to collaborate. And we've had some successes in moving some patients around to meet some of CATC or assist schedule. But I mean, we're very limited in movement.
Yeah, go ahead.
And I apologize if I come off without a heart here, because that's certainly not the case. So please believe that it's not. This is a taxpayer-funded, government-funded entity that only has so many dollars, and just like everything else in our city that requires those funds to run, I know for a fact that our budget is stretched to the limits, and we still have everything from roads that need fixed to people who need care and need rides. And that's a very delicate balance that we struggle with all the time. So I do want you to know budgets are coming up soon, and I'm sure those types of things will be addressed. But at the end of the day, there's only so much to go around. And, you know, I appreciate you coming here. I appreciate the plight. I just don't know that there's a lot that we can do in a particular situation like this. We're so stretched, and like they said, there are no overtime dollars, so how do we do that? You know, at some point, we may have to put some of the responsibility on the people that are getting the care themselves. You know, I don't know. I'm sorry to have to say that, but it's literally the truth.
Jai.
Thank you.
Councilmember Sutherland. I'm stuck between pre-meeting and this meeting. Councilmember Sutherland.
Just a clarifying question. So given the fact that, you know, the budget discussions are coming up, so have I heard you correctly that having service on Saturdays is one thing that would be requested, access to, or expanded access to Mills on the west side of town being a second, and then extended hours during the week, or what specifically is that ask?
I mean, yes, probably extended hours, but usually like by 15 minutes. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, and sometimes what we'll hear is, well, can't you just take them off 15 minutes early? No, we can't. I mean, we can't do that because A, that's not what it's prescribed, and B, it's dangerous. But yes, those would be the requests.
Okay, so it is a matter of 15 to 30 minutes or so at the end
Yes.
of the day usually that
At the end of the day,
problems are
yes.
occurring? Okay, thank you for that clarification.
Anybody else? So my understanding is you guys are looking at wanting, if there's a possibility of how we can extend and find money to be able to do more things on whatever. I think Councilmember Sutherland kind of summed that up a little bit. Is that a fair statement to say?
Yes.
Okay. So I think here's the thing about it is that I got into city council because I want to make a change and a difference, and I want to do those things, and I want to be able to do that. And sometimes when we can sit and say that people that are the most vulnerable that are needing our help, and it's easy to sit and say, well, they can deal with it, or they can figure it out. And I think that's an easy way to say that. I would say come budget time, I think the city needs to figure this out, and I don't know what that looks like, and I know that it's easier said than done. We find funding places, and I know that that's a case, but if this is something that we talk about and how we can serve and help, I don't think this is the only instance. This has happened. I've had phone calls where we've had some of these issues, so if we can look at something, and if we fail, and if we can't figure it out, then so be it. But I think we need to have that conversation. And I think at the very minimum, for the dignity and respect of an individual, we can have that conversation. But then we can look at these people and say, we went back, we looked at our budget, we can't do it. But I'm saying that we can look at that, and we can say, we can look when budget comes, we can look at Carter, and we can say, is this something that we can do? But I think we owe it to people that are in the most vulnerable situation to be able to say, how can we come up with that?
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay. Let's rock and roll. Please read the consent agenda title.
Establishing February 15th, 2022 as the public hearing date for consideration of the adoption of the fiscal year 2022 budget amendment number 2.
Chair to entertain a motion to, by minute action, establish the public hearing date just read.
So move.
Second.
Moved by Councilmember Johnson, seconded by Councilmember Egebretson. Please cast your vote. Please record the vote.
All members voting aye, motion passed.
I now declare the public hearing open for the consideration of the ordinance amending the ward boundaries. Mr. City Attorney, do you have any exhibits?
Thank you, Mayor. We do. 2 exhibits tonight. Correspondence from John Henley to G. Carter Napier dated January the 10th, 2022. Exhibit number 2, affidavit of publication, is published in the Casper Star Tribune dated January 25, 2022.
Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. We have the opportunity to consider a new redistribution, if you will, of the populations within the wards or voting districts that you all work in and represent. As you probably recall, during the work session item on this topic, we indicated to you a difficulty with regard to maintaining the current boundaries, in that there is quite a spread as it relates to the population distribution across the 3 wards. In some cases, we had a 14% disparity. In another case, we had an 11% disparity. The exhibit that you're about to see represents a tolerance of less than 4% across all wards. And so, in my estimation, this is a dramatic improvement in terms of adjusting for the population distribution that has taken place over the last 10 years within our community, and is a responsible way to make sure that all wards are equally represented among your constituencies and so on. So with respect to a tolerance of less than 4% across the community, I would suggest this is a very reasonable way to consider a redistricting effort. And in that regard, would ask for your favorable approval with regard to the amendment that we're proposing for the ordinance tonight.
Thank you. Council will now listen to public comment. Public hearing comments are limited to 5 minutes, and no duplication of speakers will be allowed. At this time, I ask those individuals who wish to speak in favor of the issues involving the ward boundaries to please approach the lectern. Those who wish to speak in favor. Okay. At this time, I would ask those individuals who wish to speak in opposition to the issues involving the ward boundaries to please approach the lectern. Those who wish to speak in opposition. There being no one to speak for or against the issues involving the ward boundaries, I now declare the public hearing closed. Please read the ordinance by title only.
An ordinance amending section 1.16 of .101, ward boundaries described, election districts of the Casper Municipal Code.
Chair to entertain a motion to approve on first reading the ordinance just read.
So moved.
Moved by Vice Mayor Friel, seconded by Councilmember Gamera. Discussion.
Just one question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Are there any negatives or downfalls to this at all that you see or have seen?
Mr. Mayor, Councilman, I would say that there aren't any that we've been able to pick up. I'm really pleased with the approach and the plan, and unlike, the statewide conversation, we just don't have those same complexities, and so in my estimation, this is the right way to go.
Thank you.
Yeah, Councilmember Kathy.
I would just like to make my one statement that I made when it was first brought up, is that I am sorry to see the boundary being moved from Conwell to Beverly, because that is now moving the cemetery from Ward 3 into Ward 1, and I pretty well had those votes sewed up, and I'm sorry to see that moving. So,
I knew it was coming. Councilmember Gamera.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to say I've really appreciated how boring and just straightforward this conversation has been, especially as you mentioned, City Manager, in light of some of the discussion going on the statewide level. When I was campaigning for City Council, there was discussion about whether City Council should be partisan or not, and I just, I went on the record multiple times then, and I'd like to go on the record again now that I like that City Council is nonpartisan. I think when we have discussions like this, it makes these much easier, more objective. We don't get drawn into the drama. I like how easy this has been. I'm glad that there's no issues, and I'm glad that City Council is nonpartisan. Thank you.
Councilmember Nell.
Just one last question. Does the currently seated council, will this affect any of those currently where they live with the changing of the boundary?
Mr. Mayor, Mr. Councilman, I would say that there is absolutely no effect with our current legislature.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, amendments. All right, please cast your vote. Please record the vote.
With all members voting aye, motion passed.
I now declare the public hearing open for the consideration of the issuance of Resort Liquor License Number 1. Mr. City Attorney, do you have any exhibits?
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, we do. 4 exhibits. Exhibit number 1, correspondence from Fleur Tremmel to J. Carter Napier dated January 17, 2022. Exhibit number 2, affidavit of publication is published in the Casper Star Tribune dated January 25, 2022. Exhibit number 3, affidavit of website publication is published on the City of Casper website dated January 18, 2022. And exhibit number 4, liquor license application filed January 10, 2022.
Thank you. Mr. City Manager, report.
Mr. Mayor, all I really have is to note that indeed with the sale of this property that's in question, it is very appropriate to reissue a resort license, of which the Hilton Garden Inn is definitely eligible. So very consistent with practices of the past.
Thank you. Council will now listen to public comment. Public hearing comments are limited to 5 minutes and no duplication to speakers will be allowed. At this time, I would ask those individuals who wish to speak in favor of the issuance of Resort Liquor License Number 1 to please approach the lectern. At this time, I would ask those individuals who wish to speak in opposition to the issuance of Resort Liquor License Number 1 to please approach the lectern. There being no one to speak for or against the issuance of the Resort Liquor License Number 1, I now declare the public hearing closed. Chair to entertain a motion to, by minute action, authorize the issuance of Resort Liquor License Number 1. Moved by Councilmember Johnson, seconded by Councilmember Ingebretson. Discussion. Amendments? Please cast your vote. Please record the vote.
All members voting aye, motion passed.
Please read the ordinance on third reading by title only.
An ordinance approving a vacation, replat, subdivision agreement, and zone change to create the Eagle Valley subdivision in the city of Casper, Wyoming.
Thank you. The chair would entertain a motion to approve on third reading the ordinance just read.
So moved.
Moved by Councilmember Gamroth, seconded by Councilmember Sutherland. Council will now listen to public comment. Public comments are limited to 5 minutes, and no duplication of speakers will be allowed. Discussion? Amendments? Please cast your vote. Please record the vote.
With Councilmember Ingebretson and Vice Mayor Friel abstaining, and all those voting aye, motion passed.
Please read the ordinance on second reading by title only.
An ordinance approving a zone change of 104 and 110 South Beverly Street, comprising portions of lots 13, 14, and a vacated strip of former Beverly Street right-of-way, Block 2, Beverly Addition subdivision in the city of Casper, Wyoming.
The chair would entertain a motion to approve on second reading the ordinance just read.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Councilmember Cathy, seconded by Councilmember Ingebretson. Council will now listen to public comment. Public comments are limited to 5 minutes, and no duplication of speakers will be allowed. Any discussion? Amendments? Please cast your vote. Please record the vote.
With all members voting aye, motion passed.
Please read the consent resolutions by title only.
Item 12A1, the acceptance of a Wyoming Office of Homeland Security grant in the amount of $20,000. Item 12A2, the acceptance of a Wyoming Office of Homeland Security grant in the amount of $16,000. Item 12A3, an acceptance of a Wyoming Office of Homeland Security grant in the amount of $91,926. Item 12A4, ratifying the establishment and funding of the WyoStar and WyoStar 2 local investment pool accounts. Item 12A5, an agreement with Wyoming Department of Transportation for the College Drive Multi-Use Pathway Project. Item 12A6, a contract with JKC Engineering for the Regional Landfill Survey Project. And item 12A7, amending the Statement of Investment Policy.
Chair to entertain a motion to adopt the consent resolutions just read.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Councilmember Johnson, seconded by Vice Mayor Friel. Mr. City Manager, do you have any comments you'd like to say on these items? Thank you. Are there any abstentions or nay votes? Okay, cast your vote. Please record the vote.
With all members voting aye, motion passed.
Chair to entertain a motion to approve, please read the consent minute action titles.
Item 13A1, the purchase of one pneumatic roller from Power Equipment. Item 13A2, the purchase of one 4x4 pickup truck from Griner Ford. Item 13A3, a purchase of one truck chassis from CMI Tico. Item 13A4, rejecting all bids for the Casper Regional Landfill Leachate Collection and Control System Structure Enclosures Project. Item 13A5, acknowledging the receipt of financial interest disclosures. Item 13A6, declaring an inventory surplus of COVID supplies. And item 13A7, the reduction of debt owed accounts receivable balances from the lease of 135 North Ash Street.
Thank you. The chair would entertain a motion to approve the consent minute action agenda items just read.
So moved.
Moved by Councilmember Ingebretson, seconded by Councilmember Gamroth. Any abstentions or nay votes? Please cast your vote. Please record the vote.
All members voting aye, motion passed.
At this time, we ask council members to bring forward relevant concerns or items of interest. Councilmember Johnson.
Nothing tonight.
Councilmember Gamroth.
Thank you, Mayor. I do have a few things. There was a vehicle fire on CY Avenue Friday night, and in their press release, Casper Fire EMS reminded people to not drive over their fire hoses. They are not built for that. So just a public PSA, I suppose. That's a bit reiterative because PSA has public in it, but don't drive over fire hoses is the moral of the story. Please don't, because then we have to budget to repair them. I really enjoyed the Wyoming Symphony Orchestra performance over the weekend, and I just wanted to remind people that they do hold dress rehearsals at 11 a.m. the morning of their concerts. It only costs $10 for a family or a non-pair non-perishable food donation to Wyoming Food for Thought. So if you've never been, I would highly encourage you go to the next one. It was a really amazing performance. Folks will begin moving into the Thyra Thompson office building. That's the state office building over on Collins Street at the end of this month. Oil City News did an article on it today that included pictures of the space. Was really impressive. I'd encourage folks to read it. Had some interesting tidbits about the history of the site, the woman that the building is named after, and other factoids like it not utilizing taxpayer dollars to be built and it paying for itself within 12 years. And then lastly, this Sunday from 1 to 2:30 at the Crawford Room in the library, 307 Skate Park, will be holding a public forum to get ideas from the community about building a indoor skate park here in town. And I would highly encourage anyone that has a passion or interest in this or resources that they would like to donate, time, financial or otherwise, to show up at this forum. I think there's a lot of potential for this idea. I'd love to see the community rally together and see what we can do to support that idea, have it come to fruition. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Egerbretson.
Nothing for me, thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Nell.
So Josh Allen's been all over the press for being a Wyoming boy, but he was actually from California. And Tyler Hall is also on the LA Rams, who was a Wyoming Cowboy, who's not from here. But good old Logan Wilson, the governor from Casper, Wyoming, is playing in the Super Bowl on February 13th. And it is just amazing to me the amount of the athletes that we get out of this town, whether it's the Brownings or the Lansings and now Logan Wilson. There's so many to name, but congratulations to him. Congratulations to Natrona County High School. And I'm not a Bengals fan, but I'm sure going to be rooting for Logan. So,
Councilmember Sutherland.
I don't have much. I think I just wanted to reiterate, or I guess agree with what you said earlier about, being here to make a positive change in the community. And even when it seems like our resources are limited, I appreciate addressing and approaching problems with creative solutions. And so I hope that we're able to help in meaningful ways and come together to help our fellow community members. Other than that, it's going to be cold for the next couple of days, so I hope everybody stays warm. Thanks.
Councilmember Kathy.
Just had to make my speech and have a little humor to the meeting tonight, otherwise nothing.
Vice Mayor Friel.
Councilman Gamross summarized everything.
He did it perfect. I actually don't have anything either, so just be exactly, it's going to be chilly and the roads will be icy, so just take it a little slower and be careful, and that'd be good. So, all righty. So the next meetings of the City Council will be a